Emma was just 3 years old when she was adopted by Claire and Daniel Harrison, a couple who had longed for a child for years. Born to parents she would never know, Emma had spent her early years in foster care, moving between homes that blurred together in her memory. When Claire and Daniel brought her home, it felt like a dream come true, not just for them but for Emma, who finally had a place to belong. Their home was warm and inviting, filled with soft rugs, cheerful paintings, and the scent of Claire's home-cooked meals. For the first time, Emma felt safe. Claire showered her with affection, reading bedtime stories and tucking her in at night, while Daniel lifted her onto his shoulders during walks in the park, making her giggle with delight. They often told her, "You're our little miracle," and for the first few years, Emma believed it. She grew into a bright and curious child. She loved to draw, filling sketchbooks with colorful pictures of her family and their home. She adored Claire's garden, where she would chase butterflies and pick flowers to decorate the dining table. Life was idyllic, and Emma felt like she had finally found her forever family. Then everything changed. One summer afternoon, when Emma was 6, she overheard her parents talking in hushed, excited tones. The doctor confirmed it, Claire said, her voice trembling with joy. "We're having a baby, Daniel." After all these years, Emma didn't fully understand what was happening, but she could see the happiness radiating from her parents. She hugged Claire tightly, thrilled to see her mother so elated. "Does this mean I'm going to have a little brother or sister?" she asked, her eyes wide with wonder. "That's right, sweetheart," Daniel said, lifting her into his arms. "You'll be a big sister." For a time, Emma was excited about the prospect of a sibling. She helped Claire decorate the nursery, picking out tiny stuffed animals and cheerful wallpaper. When Claire's belly grew rounder, Emma loved resting her head against it, feeling the baby kick. "That's Elliot saying hi," Claire would say with a laugh, and Emma would giggle, imagining all the fun she would have with her new sibling. The day Elliot was born was a whirlwind. Daniel dropped Emma off at a neighbor's house while he and Claire rushed to the hospital. When they returned, Claire was holding a tiny bundle wrapped in a blue blanket. "Emma," she said softly, kneeling to her daughter's level. "This is Elliot, your baby brother." Emma stared at the little face peeking out from the blanket, her heart swelling with a mixture of curiosity and affection. "Hi, Elliot," she whispered. "I'm your big sister." At first, Emma was eager to help with her baby brother. She fetched diapers, sang lullabies, and proudly showed him her drawings. But as the days turned into weeks, something shifted. Claire and Daniel, once so attentive to Emma, became consumed by Elliot's needs. It was subtle at first, an overlooked bedtime story, a forgotten drawing she'd left on the kitchen counter. But as time went on, the changes became impossible to ignore. Emma began to feel invisible. Whenever Elliot cried, Claire rushed to soothe him, leaving Emma to fend for herself. When Daniel came home from work, his first question was always about Elliot. "How's my little man?" he'd ask, lifting the baby into the air, while Emma lingered in the background, hoping for a fraction of his attention. One evening, as the family sat down to dinner, Emma proudly announced that she had won an art contest at school. "My teacher said my drawing was the best in the whole class," she said, her face glowing with excitement. "That's wonderful, Emma," Claire said distractedly, spooning mashed peas into Elliot's mouth. "We'll have to put it on the fridge, but it's in the newspaper." Emma pressed, holding up the page she had carefully folded and carried home. "They printed my picture, and everything." "That's great, sweetheart," Daniel said, not even glancing at the page. "Can you pass me Elliot's bottle?" Emma's heart sank. The pride she had felt earlier in the day was replaced by a hollow ache. For the first time, she wondered if her accomplishments would ever matter as much as Elliot's mere existence. Over time, the neglect became more pronounced. Claire and Daniel, overwhelmed by the demands of caring for a newborn, began to view Emma as an afterthought. They no longer asked about her day or attended her school events. When Emma tried to share her feelings, she was met with irritation. "Emma, can't you see we're busy?" Claire snapped one afternoon when Emma tugged at her sleeve, desperate for a moment of her attention. Emma retreated into herself, spending hours alone in her room, drawing pictures of a family that no longer felt like hers. She began to overhear comments that stung like nettles. "Elliot is our real child," she once heard Claire say to a neighbor. Emma was a blessing, of course, but Elliot, he's our miracle. The words echoed in Emma's mind, confirming her deepest fear: she didn't truly belong. By the time Emma turned 9, the divide between her and her parents had grown into a chasm. They no longer celebrated her achievements or noticed her struggles. Once, when she came home with a scraped knee, Claire barely looked up from rocking Elliot. "You're a big girl, Emma," she said dismissively. "You can take care of it yourself." Emma cleaned the wound with trembling hands, tears streaming down her face. She had never felt so alone. Despite the neglect, Emma clung to the small joys she could find. She spent more time in Claire's garden, which had become her sanctuary. She poured her feelings into her drawings, creating vibrant worlds where she felt loved and valued. But the question lingered in her mind: why wasn't she enough for them anymore? As Elliot grew, the disparity in how Claire and Daniel treated him compared to Emma became more glaring. What began as subtle favoritism soon transformed into blatant neglect. Elliot was lavished with affection, attention, and gifts, while Emma was relegated to the background, her needs and feelings overlooked. The once vibrant little girl began to dim, her smile rarer, her laughter quieter. The shift became painfully clear on birthdays and holidays. When Emma turned 10, her birthday was marked with a simple cake from the local grocery store and a card that Claire had hastily signed. In contrast, Elliot's 5th birthday was a grand affair, complete with a bouncy castle, custom decorations, and a mountain of presents. Emma watched from the sidelines, her chest tight with unspoken hurt. "Why didn't I get a party like this?" she asked Claire softly that evening. Claire barely glanced at her. "You're older now, Emma," she said dismissively. "Big kids don't need parties like little ones do." "But I never had a party like this," Emma pressed, her voice trembling. Claire sighed, exasperated. "Emma, stop being difficult. You're too old to be jealous of your brother?" The word stung, but Emma bit her lip and said nothing more. At school, Emma began to excel in art, pouring all her emotions into her drawings. Her teachers often praised her talent, calling her work extraordinary for her age. But no matter how much recognition she received, her parents barely noticed. When she brought home a certificate for winning a citywide art competition, Claire glanced at it briefly before setting it aside on the counter, where it was soon buried under bills and grocery lists. "Good job, Emma," Daniel said absent-mindedly as he helped Elliot assemble a new train set. "Can you hand me that piece over there?" Emma nodded silently, clutching the certificate to her chest. In that moment, she realized that no achievement of hers would ever measure up to Elliot's mere existence in her parents' eyes. The inequality extended to how Emma and Elliot were disciplined. When Elliot misbehaved, whether he spilled juice on the carpet or broke a vase, Claire and Daniel would laugh it off or gently chide him. "Boys will be boys," Daniel would say, ruffling Elliot's hair. But if Emma made the smallest mistake, the reaction was entirely different. One afternoon, while helping Claire set the table, Emma accidentally dropped a plate, which shattered on the floor. "Emma!" Claire snapped, her face flushing with anger. "Why can't you be more careful? Do you know how expensive that was?" "I'm sorry," Emma whispered, tears welling in her eyes as she knelt to pick up the shards. "Just go to your room," Claire said curtly. "You've done enough." Emma obeyed, retreating to her sanctuary and crying quietly into her pillow. She couldn't understand why her parents' love felt so conditional, why every misstep seemed to confirm that she was less deserving of their affection. The emotional neglect took its toll on Emma's self-esteem. She stopped trying to share her achievements with her parents, knowing they would be met with indifference. She spent more time alone, her sketchbooks her only companions. In her drawings, she created fantastical worlds where she was loved and valued, where she wasn't just an afterthought. Despite everything, Emma remained kind-hearted and selfless. She continued to help around the house, even when her efforts went unacknowledged. She cared for Elliot when her parents were busy, reading him stories and helping him with his homework. But while Elliot adored her, his affection couldn't fill the void left by their parents' neglect. The turning point came one summer evening when Emma overheard a conversation that shattered her already fragile sense of belonging. She had been sitting on the stairs, sketchbook in hand, when she heard Claire and Daniel talking in the living room. "Do you think we made a mistake adopting Emma?" Claire asked, her voice low. "Claire," Daniel said warningly. "Don't say that. I'm just being honest," Claire continued. "We were desperate back then. But now that we have Elliot, I don't know. It feels different." Emma froze, her heart pounding in her chest. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. "She's a good kid," Daniel said after a pause. "But I get what you mean. It's hard to connect with her the way we do with Elliot." Tears streamed down Emma's face as she fled to her room, her parents' words replaying in her mind. They didn't see her as their child. They saw her as a mistake, a placeholder until their real child came along. From that day forward, Emma resolved to stop seeking their approval. She would never be enough for them, no matter how hard she tried. Instead, she focused on her art, pouring all her pain and longing into her work. Her drawings became more intricate, more expressive, each one a window into her soul. Though she felt invisible at home, her talent didn't go unnoticed elsewhere. Her art teacher, Ms. Warren, saw her potential and encouraged her to enter a prestigious national competition. "You have a gift, Emma," Ms. Warren said. "Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Emma hesitated, unsure if she was good enough, but Ms. Warren's belief in her reignited a small spark of hope. With her teacher's guidance, Emma submitted her work, a breathtaking piece that depicted a young girl standing alone in a storm, her face turned toward a distant light. Emma poured her heart into the art competition, channeling every ounce of her pain, longing, and hope into the piece. The final submission, titled "The Light Beyond the Storm," was unlike anything she had ever created. It depicted a young girl standing alone in the middle of a tempest, her hair and clothes battered by wind and rain. Yet her eyes were fixed on a faint light in the distance, a beacon of hope cutting through the darkness. Every brushstroke was imbued with Emma's emotions, her yearning for love, her determination to persevere, and her belief in a better future. After submitting her entry, Emma didn't tell anyone, not Claire, not Daniel, not even Elliot. She didn't want to risk the disappointment of sharing another achievement that would go unnoticed. Instead, she threw herself into her drawings, finding solace in the world she created on paper. A month later, as Emma was returning home from school, she found a thick envelope waiting for her on the front step. The return address bore the name of the National Art Competition. Her hands trembled as she opened it, her heart pounding with a mixture of excitement and fear. The letter inside began simply, "Congratulations, Emma Harrison. You have been selected as the first-place winner of the National Young Artist Competition." Emma gasped, her eyes scanning the words again and again to make sure she wasn't imagining them. Along with the letter was an invitation to an awards ceremony in the city, where her work would be displayed in a gallery for prominent artists and patrons to see. The prize included a scholarship to an esteemed art school and a feature in an art magazine. For a moment, Emma stood frozen, clutching the letter to her chest. This was the validation she had longed for, not from her parents, but from the world. Someone out there saw her, valued her, and believed in her talent. That evening, Emma mustered her courage and approached Claire and Daniel with the news. They were sitting in the living room, watching TV, while Elliot played with his toy cars on the floor. "Mom? Dad?" Emma began, her voice tentative. "I won an art competition. First place. They're going to display my work in a gallery, and there's an awards ceremony in the city." Claire barely glanced up from the screen. "That's nice, Emma," she said, her tone dismissive. "There's a ceremony," Emma repeated, her voice shaking slightly. "It's really important to me. I was hoping you could come." Daniel sighed, picking up the remote. "We'll see, Emma. You know how busy things are with Elliot's soccer practice and school meetings." Emma's heart sank, the spark of hope she had felt extinguished. "Never mind," she murmured, turning away before they could see the tears forming in her eyes. On the day of the awards ceremony, Emma didn't bother asking her parents again. Instead, She dressed in her best outfit and took the bus into the city, clutching her invitation like a lifeline. When she arrived at the gallery, she was overwhelmed by the grandeur of the event. The space was filled with elegantly dressed attendees, their conversations a low hum as they admired the artwork on display. Emma felt out of place at first, but when she saw her piece hanging on the wall, illuminated by soft lights, a surge of pride washed over her. Beneath the artwork was a plaque bearing her name, Emma Harrison, first-place winner. A woman approached her, dressed in a chic black dress and exuding an air of authority. "You must be Emma," she said with a warm smile. "I'm Margaret Langley, one of the judges. Your work is extraordinary." Emma blushed, unsure how to respond. "Thank you," she said softly. "I didn't think anyone would notice." Margaret's expression softened. "Emma, your art speaks volumes. It's raw, emotional, and deeply moving. You have a gift, and I hope you know how special that is." For the first time in years, Emma felt seen, not as an afterthought or a burden, but as someone with worth and potential. During the awards presentation, Emma was called onto the stage to accept her prize. The applause was deafening, and for a brief moment, she allowed herself to bask in the recognition she had worked so hard to achieve. As she looked out at the crowd, she spotted Ms. Warren sitting near the front, clapping enthusiastically. The sight of her teacher's proud smile brought tears to Emma's eyes. "Thank you," Emma said when handed the microphone. Her voice trembled, but she spoke with quiet strength. "This piece came from a place of pain, but also hope. It's about finding light even when things feel dark. I'm so grateful for this opportunity, and I hope my art can inspire others the way it's inspired me." The audience erupted in applause, and Emma felt a wave of emotion she hadn't experienced in years: pride, validation, and a sense of belonging. When Emma returned home that evening clutching her award, she found Claire and Daniel in the kitchen. She hesitated in the doorway, debating whether to tell them about the ceremony. Claire glanced up briefly. "Where were you all day?" she asked, her tone more curious than concerned. "I went to the city," Emma said, her voice steady, "for the awards ceremony. I won." Claire blinked, taken aback. You really won?" Emma nodded, holding up the plaque. For the first time, she saw a flicker of something like regret cross her mother's face. But before Claire could respond, Elliot ran into the kitchen, demanding her attention. "That's nice, Emma," Daniel said distractedly. "We'll talk later." Emma's heart sank, but this time the sting was less sharp. She had learned to stop seeking validation from people who couldn't see her worth. Her success wasn't about them, it was about her. That night, Emma placed her award on her nightstand and sat down to sketch. As she drew, she felt a quiet sense of peace. The light beyond the storm wasn't just something she had imagined, it was real. And for the first time, Emma knew she could reach it on her own. In the weeks following the award ceremony, Emma's life began to shift in subtle but significant ways. Her victory in the competition earned her recognition not only from her peers, but also from her teachers and the art community. She began receiving invitations to participate in other contests and events, and her work was featured in a local magazine. For the first time in her life, Emma felt like she was stepping into her own light, no longer confined to the shadow of her parents' indifference. At home, however, the atmosphere remained much the same. Claire and Daniel barely acknowledged Emma's accomplishments, their attention still centered on Elliot. But Emma had stopped trying to gain their approval. She focused on her art, her studies, and the opportunities that were now opening up to her. Yet, the tension in the household was palpable, and it was only a matter of time before it came to a head. One evening, Emma was sitting at the kitchen table, sketching designs for an upcoming art exhibition. Elliot was playing noisily in the living room, and Claire was preparing dinner while Daniel sorted through mail. As Emma worked, Claire glanced over her shoulder and frowned. "Do you always have to be drawing?" Claire asked, her tone sharp. "You're always so distant these days." Emma looked up startled. "I'm not distant," she replied calmly. "I'm just focused on my work." Claire scoffed. "Well, maybe you should focus on helping out around the house more. Your father and I can't do everything while you sit around drawing." Emma felt a flicker of anger but kept her voice steady. "I do help, Mom. I take care of Elliot, I clean, I do my chores. Just because I'm working on something I care about doesn't mean I'm ignoring my responsibilities. Daniel looked up from the mail, sensing the tension. Let's all calm down, he said. Emma's been doing well in school and with her art. We should be proud of her. Claire shot him a look. Proud? Of what? Drawing pictures? That's not a real accomplishment. Emma's hands clenched into fists under the table. For years, she had swallowed her hurt, trying to make peace with their indifference. But now, something inside her snapped. Why do you always dismiss everything I do? Emma demanded, her voice trembling but resolute. Why am I never enough for you? The room fell silent. Claire and Daniel stared at Emma, shocked by her outburst. Even Elliot paused his game, looking up with wide eyes. You've ignored me for years, Emma continued, her voice rising. No matter how hard I try, no matter what I achieve, it's like I don't even exist to you. All you care about is Elliot. I'm your daughter too, but you treat me like I'm nothing. Claire's face hardened. That's not fair, Emma, she said defensively. We've done everything for you. Have you? Emma shot back, tears streaming down her face. You forgot my birthdays. You didn't come to my art shows. You didn't even care when I won that competition. All I've ever wanted is for you to see me, to love me like you love Elliot. But you can't, can you? Daniel shifted uncomfortably, guilt flickering across his face. Emma, we never meant to make you feel this way, he said. It's just, things got complicated after Elliot was born. Emma shook her head. That's not an excuse. I'm not asking for much, just to be treated like I matter. But I'm done waiting for that. I'm done trying to make you proud. Her words hung heavy in the air. Claire and Daniel exchanged a glance, their expressions a mix of guilt and discomfort. For the first time, they seemed to grasp the depth of Emma's pain, though neither of them knew how to respond. The confrontation marked a turning point for Emma. She stopped trying to bridge the gap between herself and her parents, focusing instead on her own growth. She spent more time at school, working on projects and building connections with people who supported and valued her. Ms. Warren became a mentor, helping her navigate opportunities in the art world and encouraging her to apply for scholarships. At home, the tension lingered, but Emma found herself less affected by it. She no longer sought validation from Claire and Daniel, finding strength in the recognition she had earned through her own efforts. Her room became her sanctuary, a space filled with sketchbooks, awards, and reminders of her journey. Months later, Emma received an acceptance letter from a prestigious art academy, complete with a full scholarship. It was the opportunity of a lifetime, a chance to pursue her dreams and leave behind the weight of her past. When she shared the news at dinner, the reaction was predictably muted. That's good for you, Claire said, her tone hesitant. But how will you manage on your own? I've been managing on my own for years, Emma replied evenly. This is my chance to build the life I want. Daniel nodded, his expression conflicted. We'll support you, Emma. Just let us know if you need anything. Emma thanked him, though she doubted she would need their help. She had learned to rely on herself, and for the first time, she felt truly free. The day Emma left for the academy, she packed her bags with a sense of quiet determination. As she stepped out the door, she turned to look at her parents one last time. Thank you for giving me a home, she said, her voice steady. I hope one day you'll see what you missed. With that, she walked away, leaving behind the house where she had learned both heartbreak and resilience. Emma's new life at the Art Academy was nothing short of transformative. The bustling city, filled with galleries, theaters, and creative energy, was a world away from the quiet suburban home she had left behind. For the first time, Emma felt like she belonged somewhere, a place where her talent was not just recognized but celebrated. The Academy's halls buzzed with students who shared her passion for art, and Emma quickly found herself thriving in the supportive environment. Her professors were industry professionals who pushed her to refine her techniques and explore new mediums. They praised her creativity and encouraged her to take risks in her work. You have a voice, Emma, one professor told her. Don't be afraid to let it shine through. Inspired by their words, Emma began to experiment with bold, abstract styles that captured the emotions she had bottled up for years. Her pieces resonated with her peers and professors alike, earning her accolades and invitations to prestigious exhibitions. Each success was a testament to her resilience, a reminder that she was more than the pain she had endured. In her dorm room, Emma decorated the walls with her sketches and the awards she had earned since arriving at the academy. It was a visual timeline of her journey, a daily reminder of how far she had come. Yet, despite her newfound confidence, a part of her still carried the wounds from her childhood. One evening, as she worked on a piece for an upcoming gallery show, her roommate Mia noticed Emma's quiet demeanor. "You've been killing it lately," Mia said, setting down her sketchpad. "But sometimes you look like you're carrying the weight of the world. What's going on?" Emma hesitated, then sighed. "It's my family," she admitted. "They never really saw me for who I am. I spent so many years trying to prove I was enough, but it never mattered. Even now, I wonder if they care about what I've achieved." Mia nodded thoughtfully. "That's heavy," she said. "But you're here, Emma. You're doing incredible things. Maybe it's time to focus on the people who see you for who you really are." Emma smiled, grateful for Mia's support. "You're right," she said. "I can't keep looking back." With a renewed sense of purpose, Emma poured herself into her work. Her gallery piece, titled Breaking Free, was a striking abstract composition that depicted a figure shattering chains of glass, stepping into a vibrant, colorful world. The painting became the centerpiece of the exhibition, drawing crowds who were captivated by its emotional depth. At the opening night of the gallery show, Emma stood among a sea of admirers, her heart swelling with pride as she overheard people discussing her work. "This piece is incredible," one visitor said. "It feels so personal, like it's telling a story of liberation." "That's exactly what it is," Emma replied with a smile, turning to face them. "It's about finding your strength and breaking free from the things that hold you back." The visitor looked at her with newfound admiration. "You've captured that perfectly." The success of the exhibition led to more opportunities. Emma was approached by a representative from an international art collective who invited her to join their residency program in Paris. The offer was a dream come true, and Emma accepted without hesitation. She spent the next year traveling, collaborating with artists from around the world, and gaining exposure to diverse styles and perspectives. While in Paris, Emma began to realize that her art had the power to inspire others. She received letters and messages from people who had seen her work, sharing how her pieces had resonated with them. One letter in particular stood out. "Dear Emma, I saw your painting Breaking Free at the gallery, and it brought me to tears. I'd been struggling to leave an unhealthy relationship, and your work gave me the courage to take the first step. Thank you for reminding me that freedom is possible." Emma read the letter several times, her heart filled with a sense of purpose. She had always created art to express herself, but now she realized it could also be a beacon of hope for others. Back at the academy, Emma was selected to deliver a speech at her graduation ceremony. Standing at the podium, she looked out at the crowd of students, professors, and families. Her voice was steady as she spoke. "When I first came here, I didn't believe in myself," Emma began. "I carried the weight of feeling invisible, of wondering if I was enough. But this place, this community, showed me that I am more than my past. Art gave me a way to heal, to express, and to connect with others. And for that, I will always be grateful." The audience erupted in applause, and Emma felt a sense of closure she hadn't realized she needed. She had risen above the pain of her childhood, carving out a future defined by strength and resilience. As Emma packed her belongings to leave the academy, she found the letter of acceptance that had brought her there in the first place. She smiled, remembering the timid girl who had once doubted her worth. That girl was gone, replaced by a woman who had learned to stand tall no matter the challenges. Leaving her parents' house, Emma felt a weight lift off her shoulders. Though the wounds of her past hadn't fully healed, the visit had given her something she hadn't expected, a sense of liberation. She had confronted the pain, spoken her truth, and reclaimed her story. As she drove back to her apartment, she realized that her past no longer defined her. It had shaped her, yes, but it no longer held power over her future. Back in the city, Emma resumed her life with renewed energy. Her art continued to flourish, and she began using her platform to help others who had faced similar struggles. She started hosting workshops for young artists, encouraging them to use creativity as a tool for healing and self-expression. "Your story is your strength," she would tell them. "Don't be afraid to share it." One day, Emma received an invitation to deliver a keynote speech at a major art conference. The theme was art as a catalyst for change, and Emma knew exactly what she wanted to say. Standing before an audience of artists, educators, and admirers, she shared her journey, the neglect she had endured, the resilience she had found, and the way art had given her a voice when she felt voiceless. "Art saved me," Emma said, her voice steady. "It gave me a way to process my pain, to turn my struggles into something beautiful. It reminded me that I am more than what others see in me. I am what I choose to create." The room erupted in applause, and Emma felt a wave of pride and gratitude. She had come full circle from a girl seeking validation to a woman who inspired others to embrace their worth. As her career grew, so did her impact. Emma's work began appearing in museums and private collections worldwide, and her name became synonymous with resilience and empowerment. She founded a non-profit organization dedicated to supporting young artists from underprivileged backgrounds, providing them with resources, mentorship, and opportunities to showcase their work. The organization, aptly named The Light Beyond the Storm, became a beacon of hope for countless aspiring artists. Emma poured her heart into the project, mentoring students and sharing her story to inspire them. Watching these young talents flourish filled her with a sense of fulfillment she had never imagined. One afternoon, while preparing for an upcoming exhibition, Emma received an unexpected visitor at her studio. It was Elliot, now in his early 20s, holding a bouquet of sunflowers. "Emma," he exclaimed, pulling her into a tight hug. "I've missed you." Emma smiled, her heart warming at the sight of her brother. "What are you doing here?" "I wanted to see you," he said, setting the flowers on a nearby table. "And to tell you something," they sat together, catching up on life. Elliot spoke of his studies and how much he admired Emma's work. Then, with a shy smile, he said, "You've always been my role model, you know. Even when we were kids, you were the one who showed me what it means to follow your dreams." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you, Elliot," she said softly. "That means more than you know." As the years passed, Emma's relationship with her family continued to evolve. Though Claire and Daniel still struggled to express their emotions, they made efforts to support Emma in small ways, attending her exhibitions, sending her thoughtful notes, and even donating to her nonprofit. While their bond would never be perfect, it was a start, and Emma chose to focus on the progress rather than the past. Her relationship with Elliot, however, grew stronger than ever. He became a frequent visitor to her studio, often bringing friends to see her work. He proudly told anyone who would listen, "That's my sister, the amazing artist." By the time Emma turned 30, she had achieved more than she had ever dreamed. Her art was celebrated around the world, her nonprofit had changed countless lives, and she had found peace within herself. But what mattered most to her wasn't the fame or the accolades. It was the knowledge that she had reclaimed her life on her own terms. On a quiet evening, as she sat in her studio working on a new piece, Emma paused to reflect on her journey. The painting before her was a vibrant abstract, bursting with colors that symbolized hope, strength, and transformation. It was titled Homecoming. This final piece was displayed at her most personal exhibition, yet retrospective of her work that chronicled her evolution as an artist and a person. As she stood in the gallery, surrounded by friends, family, and admirers, Emma felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She had turned her pain into purpose, her struggles into strength, and her art into a legacy. Looking around the room, Emma spotted Claire and Daniel standing quietly in a corner, their expressions a mix of pride and awe. Elliot stood beside them, beaming with pride. For the first time, Emma felt truly seen by her family, not as the girl they had overlooked, but as the woman she had become.